Constitutional and electoral reform advisor Kate Sullivan was not accepted well at her public town hall meetings, where she introduced recommendations of changes to be made to the Constitution. Persons in attendance believe that she did not take the interests of TCI residents into consideration while drafting those recommendations and therefore believed that no changes should have been made. Well, today, a new draft of those recommendations have been released. Sullivan held a tele-press conference today as she is away in the United Kingdom. The media was given a chance to question the revision. One of the questions raised was if, in fact, she believes she took the interests of residents in the TCI into consideration when trying to come up with changes to be made to the Constitution. She responded,
"You can't please all of the people all of the time. But what I think I have done is I've listened to people. I have heard where people were very concerned, and I've heard what motivated those concerns. And all of that information will be there for UK ministers when they have to make their final decision."
Okay. Now, one of those recommendations was that changes should be made to the qualifications of a deputy governor, stating in her initial recommendations that that role should not be restricted to belongers. TCI residents voiced their opinions and stated that they were strongly against that recommendation. Sullivan says that now she agrees.
The whole point of consultation is to listen to people's views, and people made a lot of clear points about the role of the deputy governor. And what was my role is to make sure that if I'm trying to achieve something, and in this particular instance, what I was trying to achieve was a deputy governor that added value to the governance arrangements, particularly by having a very clear role. And certainly the feedback I got at the meetings was that that was supported, but the people didn't think you needed to change the qualifications to be the deputy governor in order to get that outcome. So I was able to take those views into account because I agree with them. I think you can be a strong deputy governor who has that very clear role, particularly in relation to the public service, and also be a belonger. And that's why I've made the recommendation that I have.
Okay. It was also Sullivan who recommended the trial by judge alone bill that was recently passed. We wanted to know how that bill being passed affected her revision draft. Sullivan stated that it did not affect her decision, as that recommendation was not one she intended to change because no suggestions of a solution of that matter was presented.
The trial and jury arrangements is the exact same issue as with the deputy governor. I have to look at what I was trying to achieve, and what I was trying to achieve with the initial recommendation was to make a suggestion as to how things could be done, in this case, how justice could be done and be seen to be done through the court process, given the concerns that have been raised around jury trials in the TCI. Now, for all the opposition that was given by people, and as I've said in the report that I certainly clearly heard, what I didn't get was a solution to that problem of how juries could be formed and could do their job. Obviously, and this is an excellent example, whereas if someone can come up with a suggestion, I'm going to be able to take that into account for the next time.
Now, Sullivan made it clear that this is not the final draft and UK ministers still have the final say and will make changes they feel necessary to her recommendations as early as next year, January. She stated that persons in the community can send in submissions of recommendations they feel need to be made. News 4 wanted to know how can persons be sure that their views will be taken into consideration this time around.
Well, I think they can read this report and see that the views of the last rounds of comments and suggestions were taken into consideration. But as I said in, I think it was the answer to one of Krista's questions, that I can't give everybody what everybody wants because it fundamentally won't fit with what I need to be able to demonstrate to the UK that I've achieved, which are the areas of reform and improvement that the ministers clearly set out that I've included in the report for people to see. But certainly everything that people submit to me is taken into account and considered.
News 4 also wanted to know what prompted this revision and if Sullivan herself saw the need to make a few changes to her own recommendations.
I wrote the original recommendations, so I certainly believed they were the right solutions at the time. But then again, they were always written knowing that I would be coming out and getting further views from people, and certainly people put in a lot of detailed views. So I wouldn't say that I personally changed my mind, but what I certainly changed my mind was where I was going given what I heard from people in the public meetings.
Sullivan explained to the media that there are no more town hall meetings to be held, as the revision of those recommendations were always the plan. When asked if past town hall meetings and protests contributed to her decision to not hold any more town hall meetings, she responded no. She explained that she could not give a definite answer to exactly when the final draft will be completed and released to the public, but it is hoped that it will be sometime in January. Until then, you can check out the revised recommendations on the governor's website at www.turksandcaicosislands.fco.gov.uk. For WIV4 News, I'm Amanda Miller.